before I go boom like that. Fuck that door like
What's up? What's good? Welcome to the Locked In podcast. Today I'm in the middle of Tokyo with my boy Giz.
You're?
What's the deal, my man?
What's good? It's so good to see you again,
Man,
bro.
it feels great to see you.
Yo, it's crazy that we made that it just happened coincidentally, like our schedules matched.
I know. I was thinking like just even like this area, like you showed me so much just around this, bro, and like you were really like my first friend out here. We're like, especially who like knew stuff about fashion and like I wouldn't even say I knew anything like too much about fashion. Like I was into like style and I wanted to get into it, but I wasn't aware of like needles, for example.
Yeah.
Especially during that time.
It wasn't really even big at that time, remember?
Yeah.
It was starting to like catch like the waves, but now it's like now everybody knows it, obviously, but
right.
Yeah.
But during that time, like, I don't know, just I remember the homie Q introduced me and he's like, bro, I know this like sick dude Giz. Is like, especially for us being American, it's like, oh yeah, bro, this is Korean dude, but he knows everything. He's like, you should meet him. And then after that, it was just like, I feel like all these like other little doors just starting to open. And then even just seeing like how you moved around. Like I remember when you brought like pizza to the needle store to the workers and shit.
Yeah.
Just to show love. And shit.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I just wanted to say thank you for showing me and coming back here today.
I mean, everything happens for a reason, right? I mean, it's the people that you get to, the diverse people that you get to meet in Harajuku is like, it's obviously such a blessing, I think, experience. All living in a foreign country, but gathered with like a similar interest, I think is kind of like a really dope thing about Tokyo and especially Harajuku, right? Like there's no other place like that in the world, I think.
That's true.
I still think of it like that. This because everybody loves fashion, and then everybody meets in Harajuku, and it's not a kind of like a place out there in the world that's like that, I think.
Why do you think it's like it's Harajuku rather than like a Paris or something like that?
Well, the thing is like, well, that's a deep topic, but I think it's because because I think it's related to like maybe the uniqueness of Japan in general, where not a lot of things change and they like to keep it old school and they have like this unique customer store relationship as well. As you know, a lot of people like to shop offline here rather than online. And I think all of those things added and just kind of built that Harajuku culture itself, where it's now just like enrooted in Japan's society. And
That is true. It is like a real life kind of like interaction. You really pulling up to the stores and seeing the pieces, but meeting the actual like workers and stuff is different than, like online shopping. But this is the spot to do it because you can hit 7, 8 different minis.
Walking like that, and
all right there.
Right. And everybody knows one from each other, and then that's how you get like connected into the scene. I think is
fire.
Amazing.
I want to start from the beginning. So
Sure.
I just want to talk about like, so you're not from Japan. You grew up in Korea.
Yeah.
You're Korean. Could you tell me a little bit about that? Like, how was that?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Korea, but then I moved. Do I look at the camera or should
Oh, you can look at me. Just whatever feels more
Yeah.
natural.
So I was born and raised in Korea, Seoul, and then I was fortunate enough to move to the States because of my father, and I was a first grade elementary, I think. So I went to elementary school in the States till the 5th year, and then I moved back to Korea, and that's where I picked up English because it was naturally kind of like my first language. Because I mean, how well do you speak like your natural language when you're like 4 years old, right? So like now I had to learn English, and that was like I was just interacting with English. Came back to Korea, kind of struggled obviously because then I couldn't really speak Korean like very well compared to the other peers. Had a cultural differences as well, but then I still managed to pull through. And in Korea, there's like this like kind of like an international school. So I was lucky enough to like enter there, where I learned Japanese there. So
Oh, wow.
so we had like this cultural exchange like kind of thing from high school. So that's when I first visited Japan and kind of homestayed in like like a Japanese, like a family's house, kind of learn their culture.
Oh, like an exchange student kind
Yeah,
of thing?
not just for like the summer vacation
Okay.
and kind of like that. And then I think that kind of experience kind of like stuck in my subconscious. I think that when it was time for me to choose college, I was like, well, I don't want to be in Korea, but then I don't want to go to the States because I already lived there. And I was like, okay, I learned Japanese. Like, I want to come to Tokyo, and that kind of like opened the was the start of opening the doors for me in my life I because obviously growing up in a traditional Asian kind of family where they kind of emphasize you to, kind of do the more traditional paths. But now that I'm in Tokyo and they're like and they don't see me every day so that they can control or something, they kind of let me roam free. That's why I was like, oh, was like trying to like work my way through in Harajuku, meeting people, just shopping here, kind of like hustling because I don't have money. And I was trying to like, buy expensive shit. So that's kind of what happened. So I was like, obviously, that was like back in like 2014, 15, like pre-hype Supreme days. So I was like lining up here, interacting with the people, and then kind of buying it and obviously selling it as well, and Jordans as well, and that's how it like get money little by little, and then that went to a purchase of something else, which led to something else, and then which led to
Right here
right
today.
here today. Yeah, no.
Sick. So what would you say is your initial like inspiration and love for fashion? Like when you came to Tokyo, it was like, okay, I seen all this, or were you already like when you're in the States and
Well, no, not in the States actually, because I was still like a kid, like what, 8 years old. Like,
right.
well, I'm not gonna be wearing like
Well, maybe
those
you're like you
stuff.
care about like your shoes at the time or something
Not
like that.
really. So
No.
I was just like mom would just wear this like polo T-shirt, and I was like, I don't want to wear no polo, like
Yeah.
it wasn't really cool, back then, And she would like wear and she would buy like Old Navy, and I was like, I'm not really, it's not really that. But I think when I went to middle school, now we have uniforms in Korea. We all have to wear uniforms. So now you have to think of ways. Oh, like how can I like pop out from all this like same uniform? So then you start to like, oh, let me buy a big ass uniform pants
Switch it
and
up.
kind of like a belted, and then some other people would just like make it super skinny or like maybe dye their hair or something like that. So it started like that, and then once there was like this like school field trip every like once in a year, and that's when the school allows you to wear non-uniforms. So that's when you get to like show off, and then I remember I was like buying like going to like Dongdaemun and like those like places and buying like shit, and I was always trying to be like fashionable, trying to be cool. I was always interested in that sense. So yeah, like that was always the thing, but it wasn't like I knew like, oh, this brand is hot, this brand is hot. It wasn't
Right.
like that. It was more like I wanted to look cool.
Right.
Like,
I think
yeah.
it has to start from there. And that's
Yeah.
kind of like
I wanted to
interesting.
look different, kind of like, yeah.
I feel like with most of the interviews like that I've done, like people they come from like the uniform school. I've came
Uh,
from a uniform school as
okay.
well too. And like I never made that really correlation to like right now because this is
Huh.
like sounds like it's repeated kind of
Yeah.
almost. But it sounds like I remember I used to just want to swag my belt and then like I can change my shoes.
Yeah.
So it's like the smallest little
That small
differences
details,
would be
right?
like would you I don't know, just feel so different from
Yeah.
somebody else. Damn, so maybe it's just like conforming to fit in, like you want to just
Exactly,
stand out.
because you're just forced to like be same as everyone else, that you think of little ways of how can I add my color to it, I think that's kind of like how it started.
Right. So when I met you, I think it was like 2017,
Yeah.
16.
Yeah, 17, I think,
Where were you at in that time of your
in
life?
that time of life. Funny thing is, in Japan, like it's hard to find English speakers or like who and for me at that time I was still like in a kind of more like conversational level of Japanese, I would say, not like so fluent as now, as compared to now. And I think I told you before, I had a really tight homie. He was
You
in
did
the
tell me he was in the Air
he
Force,
was in the
right?
Air Force. He's still like one of my best closest friends, Will. Um, and he taught me like, because I was so out of touch in the American culture now, right? Because it was like already like 15 years ago or something like that. So, but then like we met through while camping at Bape, Kid Cudi, Shark hoodies, and like when they had like the I think was some year anniversary collab or something. We met and then we were like cussing like the store staffs and we're like, yo, we don't really see these a lot in like Tokyo, and we're like, yo, what's up? And it was like we started hanging out, but then he taught me like retaught me so much of the culture and everything, and especially like more of like the African American culture as well. And he was really like woke in that sense as well. And
I remember you
also,
even telling me that
yeah,
back
like the
then. Like,
boundaries and everything, like cultural appropriation and all those kind of like deep stuffs that it helped me mature a lot and respect in a proper way, I would say. And like he was just a close friend of mine who loved fashion, and then he left because his time was over in Japan. So it was like that, and then so I was just hanging, with Val and everyone. So all kind of like my original friends groups had all gone back to either Korea or Europe or the States, and that's when I think I met this new group of friends, which is you, Dwayne, Q, et cetera, et cetera. And
oh, sick. So you were just trying to find like like-minded people, not necessarily trying to find
yeah,
like-minded people, but it's
just because like in Japan, if you, like there's when you're a foreigner, like obviously like because the culture, because it's kind of like they do have a little bit of a gatekeeping, kind of
oh, for sure.
of a thing. So it's always as a foreigner, then you always feel like excluded from that, no matter how you try to approach them. And when you meet with like I guess Western minded, like who comes from the Western culture, then you just feel comfortable and talking about these things. So I think
I
that's
think I felt that more like on this trip because I was just talking to my girl about that. She was asking like, would you want to move here and stuff like
yeah,
that. And I love Japan like to like
yeah,
the utmost, but it's just like at a certain point you just will never be fully accepted. Like I feel
yeah,
like
no, for sure, for sure, for sure.
so I get what you're saying. Like even just when I'm pulling up talking to you, this is like the first time I've had like just a regular conversation. I could just talk how I want to
Right,
talk,
yeah.
and you get
Yeah,
my
yeah,
expressions and stuff.
exactly. So that's that. And in terms of my career-wise, I was still in university, but obviously I was still handling, not handling, but I was still kind of, posting fits, and I know a lot of people still liked it at that time, but it wasn't like in a where it's could be a career thing. And I think in that mentality as well, I think I was never trying to pursue it more as a career, as like being a
Consumer.
micro influencer or some kind of those kind of things. I was more focused on trying to get a job out here because of the visas and everything, and
Right.
also trying to like figure out my position in the industry. Because okay, now I think I dressed kind of uniquely in that sense at that point in period of time. I knew a lot of these celebrities where they would when they would come to Tokyo, they would hit me up and I would hang out with them, but then it doesn't lead to anything concrete, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm their stylist, or like it's nothing like a full-time kind of thing where
Right. You got these connections
yeah,
and stuff, but you're trying to figure out.
I got all these dots. I have a very, I have a knack of finding like new emerging brands, and then I would introduce them to great, and they will pick him up, but it's like
Uh,
not, but at the end of the day, it's not like I'm getting something out of that, you know what I mean? But I had all these talents or traits, which I will call them dots, but then I didn't know how to connect them at that time. And that was always my
you're figuring that out.
figuring that out. Yeah.
So at this time, you already met Val because I feel like
Yeah.
Val is like a big.
I met Val at 2015. So yeah.
Okay. Um, damn. So you're just trying to connect. Damn, that's kind of like where I'm at, honestly.
Okay.
So I feel like I have like all these little dots.
Yeah.
So this is like one of the dots that I'm connecting to
Yeah.
try to like figure this thing out.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, you started Cmmawear like what, 2019?
So before that, we have to go in the sense that, and then I started because I needed a visa. I started.
Oh wait, actually, how'd you even get connected to the point where like these celebrities were hitting you up? Because you've been like messing with J Balvin stuff when I met you.
So that's the thing. So it was because I was dressed. I wouldn't say I was dressed. I dressed well. It was I dressed differently. And at that point of time, I thought dressing differently was meant
Like
best
cool?
dressed.
Okay.
But then it was a point where I was trying to be too different, too crazy, too fast. That if I look back at the photos, I want to archive all of them. You know what I mean?
Feel you.
But that point of time is because I wanted to just try new things, experiment. I didn't want to settle, so I was switching my styles every 2 months, getting bored, selling, just completely changed the closet. Where now, and because I think, like in a psychological way, I think it was more like I dressed to prove something.
Mhm.
But now, in right now, I don't really dress to prove that I just dress comfortable and just me. So I think I found that balance now. But back at that time, it was more because I didn't know my exact position in the market. So I just wanted to just prove that, oh yo, like I know everything in
I got some
style.
shit on right now too.
But not like I got rare pieces. It's like, yo, like this is some new shit, like new brands. But it wasn't like so blending well. But I think celebrities like that stuff, and that's how like they always found me first, and they would hit a follow. They would message me, hey, I like your style, and then
Oh, wow.
obviously some celebrities are kind of too top down, I think. But J Balvin was one of the first celebrities that actually that taught me a lot of the ways of success, I would say, because he was such a humble, because he was a superstar still back then, but he was so humble. He was like flat, and he was always caring about how I felt, and like trying to make comfortable of that situation. And I think I just learned how to like then navigate through that, and that was kind of like and I think he liked that I was also built in the same humbleness, and kind of like not trying to take advantage of him, trying to like just like hey, like yo,
Yeah, there's a million
yeah,
ways.
so I'm not trying to take advantage of him because there's a lot of people, and I think he liked that vibe, which is why then whenever another person that he knows comes to Japan, he would say, yo, please hit up Gizmo, please hit up Gizmo. So that's how it happened. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn. So, and then you were about to get into, because I was about to jump into Cmmawear.
Yeah.
Well,
And then, so I was still figuring that out. And then I did a corporate job. It's kind of related with fashion, which still I had a decent pay, which.
what was it, like consulting or?
Yeah, kind of like that. And then what happened was I was always figuring out, okay, how do I make my own stuff? And at that time, I realized I need to do something.
Oh, so you knew in the back of your head you wanted to make a brand.
I was always gonna make my own stuff, not like even a brand, but I was gonna always do something in my own business at one point, because I knew I was built not to like
Because you knew you had a lot of dots,
Yeah.
but you didn't have no like solid foundation that was just Giz's.
So first, I still wanted to play safely, where I paid a decent amount of salary, kind of accumulate that money, and then use that money to launch it. Because if you don't have the money, then it's more like, then you have to rely on other people, and then you get pressured to compromise yourself. Let's say, oh, I want to do this, but then let's say your money is draining. Then at a certain point of time, then it's like, oh, now I need to get it back. You know what I mean? And then you feel pressured to just release something that you're not ready for it. Then because of that financial situation, so I wanted to avoid that. So that I wanted to have a certain amount of a budget where I wouldn't feel pressured to compromise my stuffs. So that was the first beginning, and then in 2020 it happened earlier than I thought. It was because Val, who I met, who I'm always with, she's my ride or die, as you know. She went to Korea, and then COVID happened, and even with her re-entry permit, she could not come in.
Oh,
So
wow.
now we are just forcefully like doing long distance. There were some struggles between here and there, and she was struggling to find a job, and then the job market crashed too. She was stressed. So I knew that I had to then go to Korea and start my own thing so I can be with her. And she obviously has a lot of talents, but then also she couldn't channel it into one. So, but I knew her talents because I knew her the best. So now, okay, we're gonna do a business together, and that's how Cmmawear happened.
Damn, that's a sick ass story. So it was through like adversity, like you were forced to kind of make
Yeah,
something crack. You're stuck between the wall, like, damn, we gotta do something. Like,
yeah. So
let's
that's
figure
how
it
it
out.
happened. Yeah.
And then how'd you come up with the name Cmmawear?
So that's the thing. So at first, I was, still trying to do everything on my own, and she was helping me, right? But she came up with the name because I was struggling with the name. And she said, yeah, she came up with several ideas, and she's she has a really raw talent in branding in general. And she said, oh, let's Cmmawear. And I was like, oh, what does it mean? And she said, because I was telling her, yo, this is kind of like the feelings I want. And then she summarized that, and then she was just brainstorming, and then she come up with this name, Cmmawear, because Cmmawear is like comma as in you rest, right? This it the branding was more in Korean and then more like in Chinese characters, so it kind of doesn't feel the same when I say it in English, but it was more like something to do with like rest in Chinese characters. It's a human, and then there's a tree character.
Mm.
A human leaning inside a tree where they find comfort. So not rest, like comma as in rest, but in the character it means more comfort,
Comfort, ease, kind of
ease,
just
that vibe. And for that doesn't necessarily mean like a comfortable clothes or coat like a sweatpants, or not necessarily that, but just when you feel comfortable and confident when you wear clothes. So that's kind of the branding where it came from, because for me when I dress, and if I have like a point on outfit, I feel good, feel like I don't need to worry, I feel like I have this
you're good. Like,
armor, I'm good.
right.
I feel fresh, like
I think everybody can relate when they put a
right.
good fit on you. Like,
Yeah, so
you're able to do what you want to do.
that's kind of the thing, and it's more like I told you I was figuring things out, but then Cmmawear can also be read as come aware, become aware.
Mm.
So it's more like self-realized. Oh, I became aware of what I can do as a person. Now I'm figured out how to connect the dots. So it's more of that branding is included in the name. So you guys who's struggling with, let's say, trying to find, let's say, confidence in the clothes, you can wear like my uniform, and it's hopefully you guys can feel it and you guys can figure things out.
Yeah,
It's kind
become
of like
aware of
yeah,
yourself and
it's that or two double meanings. What do you say this?
how do you say that? I know what you mean though. It's like
Right,
a double mean.
like
Double entendre.
yeah.
That's what that is. Okay. So, damn. All right, you got Cmmawear popping. What was like the early days like? So I'm just imagining it's like you and Val. I know like this is one of like the first pieces, right?
It was. So this is like what
You guys are
happened
throwing
was
like mood boards up. You guys are just like in the room during
no. So
COVID
see,
quarantine.
so it's more like because me and Val is like also we're business partners, but before we're like we're tight. We're what do we call, we're in a relationship. We're lovers. So we're naturally always together. So it's just doesn't matter like a workspace or anything. So It was just, it was just like our, like kind of like our first in the beginning, it was like our rent, where we stay at, and we would just brainstorm there. And obviously we have these outsourced workshops that does it. But it was more like figuring out like, okay, so I'm not a professionally trained, designer or anything, so I needed to figure it out. But then this is where the dots come in because, I help, let's say, Post Archive Faction and like all these brands, right? Now, because I showed love to them, like, before, now it's, they were showing love to us as well. Like, hey, let me put you through this factory. Let me put you
Oh,
through
sick.
this manufacturers. They were like teaching steps on how, because they started like that as well. So they were teaching like that. And whenever, and then I was like, in the first year, I was almost living in the factory, like learning how the manufacturing process goes because
In
it's
Korea?
in Korea. So that was just a really learning curve where I wanted to like be out in the field because and just gain, the actual experiences of being in the field where you can get the most out of it, right? So that's how I could learn so quickly. And yeah, and then whenever let's say another example is then okay, now I like these intricate patterns and like um
Oh yeah, because
the
I feel like your style like kind of started to change
yeah.
too, and I feel like it like the brand almost reflected it a little bit. But
Exactly. So those technical stuffs too. Whenever when I'm stuck on, oh, I can't work out this pattern, then there's this guy called Jiong, the stunt faded stuffs, and he's really good in the technical stuffs. Then I helped him launch his brand too.
he's like a scientist, bro. He's
Yeah.
crazy. He's
So
sick.
I launched his brand too. I helped
Mm.
launch his brand because he wasn't gonna launch his brand because he didn't know how to. He put up his graduate collection, but he didn't know what to do with it. And I hit him up, and we had a really deep connection where we were cut from a similar personality and everything. I immediately put him through grade, and
Sick.
they bought his graduate collection, which was the launch of his. Now then, okay, then this is my brand's name and everything. So that's how it happened. So he obviously then was like so grateful on that sense that whenever I'm stuck, I will go to him because we live close by, and then he would help me figure it out. Oh, yo, let's try and do this kind of way. So all those kind of like the dots that I had before is now also helping me out. And now, obviously, now I help them out as well. So it's kind of like that interaction now. So we're now, that's why we are like also tight and like have like, we meet like at least once a month and have like a drinking session and just talk things out on how we can improve the culture of Korea and this fashion scene and kind of like, so that's
Your relationship game is crazy. Like
it is. I mean,
it's because you're so genuine. Just even like just this conversation, how we met up, and
yeah.
just from years ago, like especially like in the position that you're in right now, it's so easy, especially in the fashion world, to be like Mr. Cool Guy, and then like as soon as you like do something, it's like you just step away from
Yeah.
people, and it's like
It's not like that because it's like, I mean, maybe some people could feel that about me, maybe, but because, I got so busy as well, but that thing happens. But then I do cherish like relationships a lot. And you probably know like how like I always value like relationships and like being like, like you said, genuine and like just being straight, you know what I mean? Like,
mhm.
so and that's what I learned through J Balvin and everything because he was like that, like moving through like that, and that's how the industry loves him and everything. So
You can almost see that through the interviews with him too.
right, so at the end of the day, like relationship is the key in not just for fashion, but I guess especially in fashion because it's just also
It's about who you know
yeah, it's
too,
like who you know. I mean, at the end of the day, it is like who do you know, and then it's like word mouth to mouth, like
because
oh
everything's
yo.
subjective. Like
Yeah,
clothes are
yo,
subjective.
he's he's doing good. Let me put you through him. Yo, if you go to Paris and then some of my friends who knows in Paris and they'll be like, yo, can you like I'll link you up with him. So that's how it happens at the end of the day. So at first it's hard to do, like I said, because I had all these dots, but then when you still cut your teeth, it's this and then some naturally at a moment, then all those things I think tend to come back to you, all the good things that you gave out.
Right.
tends to come back, I think.
So that brings us to this third collection. It's called
The Dive,
Dive.
Birth of the Cool.
Birth of the Cool with the CD cover. That was
Yeah.
great. So it was like
That's
some
all
of the.
Val's branding idea.
Oh, really?
So that's coming back to the launch, then launch. Okay, now we have to play safely now. So, okay, there was this lot of things that I wanted to
Is this
do.
the biggest collection too?
Yeah, so
Okay.
but then we can't do that right now because we don't have that much, like I said, in the big financial thing. So, okay, we need to do a drop. Of course, I didn't want to do a drop at first. I wanted to do drop of, full ass collection and be like, oh yeah, this is my collection, but you have to take step by step. So okay, and I wanted to make like like some crazy stuffs too, but then I have to also think about running a business and being commercial.
Yeah, because you know firsthand, you go to the stores, you know what people actually buy versus
Yeah.
what's on
So
Instagram.
okay, now let's see what's missing in my wardrobe and kind of like, so that's my approach. So it's like, okay, let's start out with the basic. Everybody wears cargos, and especially I like pants. So like, okay, let's start with the dope ass pants where everybody can just feel comfortable in it. So that's how we started with the pants, and then we move on to the jackets, and then accessories, hats, and that kind of got gained the gain. Thankfully, a lot of people who supported me was also satisfied with the purchase. So that's what we wanted to do in the beginning. Okay, but I don't want it to do a pre-order because I know somehow how it can get fucked up because you're not 100% in control of the manufacturing. It's up to the factories, and anything can happen in the factory. So I didn't want to leave that up to the hands where it's my first drop. Oh, he's an influencer. Let's see what he does. Okay, he does a pre-order and like
They're waiting for you to fuck up.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I didn't want to do that. So okay, I'm gonna use my money, produce this, and I'm gonna ship it out the next day.
Sick.
And that's how
I remember that at that time.
Yeah.
I remember vividly thinking, I'm like, oh shit, he has everything done. It's
so
right
it was
there.
like, yeah, it was a risk for me, but I was confident, and I think that was, and it was like, I think that was the minimum thing that I had to do for me. It was like, they're trusting me and paying this certain kind of money, then I would, if I were the customer, then I would expect them to, do the minimum. The minimum is okay. This is obviously a good product, but it's also then okay, deliver it in a very, in a neat way. That's how we came up with the packaging. So we were all like wrapping it one by one.
It was like floral, like, right?
Yeah.
I think I remember.
So that's how it happened. So that now that we accumulated this kind of thing, for me, it was like, oh, what is my next step? Next step was to build my atelier, my laboratory. So in that, we had an outsourced person who would always do our samples. But then now that I accumulate this certain kind of money, then because we had a good relationship as well, and she was working with like all the other big brands as well, but because she liked my working style, I was very cautious in approaching her. But then finally she decided to come in-house. So that happened in, so that process started to happen in July and got finalized in November, where I brought, so I kind of like, we merged her. So we brought her in-house. So now that we can do all the samples inside my office.
Oh wow, this was like a lady you met at the manufacturer?
So there manufacturers a factory, but then there's these individual head seamstresses who's like a total package who can do everything, like from patterns to everything. So that's like a head. That's like, she's like my chief like right hand now. So now she's doing in-house. So now we can do the things we don't that because in factories you have to do at least the minimum 100 pieces units, but then you still have to think of commercialness, right? But then I still wanted to do like this, coat where it's so expensive to make, but then you can't. This was priced, the retail was like $2,000, but you can't make, let's say, 200 pieces of $2,000 coats because you don't have that much customers who can purchase that, right?
Right.
So it comes down to the quantity. But now that I have my own, manufacturing place, we can do those stuff. So that's why we decided to Now our next step was to now build a collection, and we divided that into side A and side B in terms of the cassette, where side A is more generally, radio songs, and then side B is more like where you can put your artistic sense into it. So that's how we divided it into
And that's like the
side.
bigger pieces too on the side B.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's like bigger because but it's more like side B pieces are more kind of difficult to make and more we didn't we didn't uh we didn't think of the cost. Meaning we were going full out. We weren't worried about like, oh, what's the end up cost gonna be?
Okay.
Yeah, because so naturally everything's used in like
It's just full creativity mode. Like
and
this is something I
and
really
like and in terms of fabrics and everything, it's just like we wouldn't care as much as the price of that. So we could use more better raw materials and everything.
So what were some of the difficulties going into this collection? Because this is like your biggest collection now.
The difficulties was, so we did a drop until May this year, and then obviously there was some kind of a slump for me, and I flew a lot to Europe as well, and that kind of like messed up my like biorhythm and everything. Like it was really hard to recover from it, and I also had some kind of my personal stresses, and everything just came all at once. And it was summer, and it was kind of a drag. It was kind of also mentally stressing. Like, oh, like how can I be better? Like, can I actually like sustain? Can I do this for like over 10 years? Or would I fall? I was like, very actually like in kind of like in a dark place at that time. So I couldn't really design at that moment. And we didn't make anything, so we were just taking some times off and everything. But at the same time, we were planning also to have this, the part that I talked about, integrating that part. But then as things do, there's ups and highs and lows, obviously, and then things started to click in again.
You were just kind of in your own head, had like a creative block more than anything.
Yeah,
It wasn't
and then like managed to pick it up now. So that was kind of the struggles we had, and and
how were you able to get out of that and that
I
like
always
writer's
have
block?
Val and everything. It's more like, you just have to break, and you just have to like, even if it's shitty thing, you just have to start it again, start over, make something, and then even if shitty, but then you're still, and then you manage to take a step forward, right? So now, okay, let's think of this way, and then revisit, and which was how we could do this collection now. And there's many great pieces that I'm actually really proud of. So I think it's because of the struggles and that dark place that I had led to this. And yeah.
Sick. Yeah, no, I've been studying like the pieces. Like I noticed you got like the double zip long sleeve on right now.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
like one of my favorites. And then you've been wearing like the bat wing. Is that in this collection now? It is? Okay.
No, people will be going crazy.
No,
for
because
that.
the fit was crazy. The black on black when you're like sitting on the fucking little rail or whatever. I was like, oh, dang it, he got some shit right now.
It was, no, funny story, crazy story is like, I mean, most of my customers obviously are from the United States, but Japan is always a slow market. Japan is always a slow market to gain word of mouth. And when I came here last time, we didn't have the same response. Not like in online sales, but in the streets. We
Right.
didn't have that same presence as I felt this time, because a lot of people were actually on the streets like saying, "Oh, yo," they were either recognizing me or they didn't know about me, which is better.
Right.
I went to a Capital shop
Oh shit.
and I was trying on a jacket and I was wearing my Batwing, and then this.
We're in the streets right now. Live and direct. I think we're good though, honestly.
Yeah. I was just, すいません。すいません。僕ちょっとなんかインタビュー中なんですけど、ちょっとあっちで話しても大丈夫ですか? Okay. So, okay, let's cut this out.
No, you're good. You're in the Capitol store.
No, because it's actually not. I mean, this is house. So but so I was taking off my jacket, and this store clerk was like, "Oh, I really like your jacket. Where is it from?" Because I already took my jacket off, I was like, "Oh, it's from this brand." It was my brand, and he was like, "Oh, I know this brand." He was like, so I was like, "Oh, okay." It's like,
This
so I
is a
was like,
customer or a worker?
he was a worker there, so he was helping me out. So I was changing onto a Capital jacket, and I took my jacket off, and he said, "Oh, what's
Yeah,
this
what's
jacket
that?
from? I like it." And I was like, "Oh, it's from this brand," because I didn't want to say, "Oh, it's my brand,"
Right.
in the beginning. So, "Oh, it's from this brand." He was like, "Yo, I know this brand." I was like, "Oh, you do?" And he was like, "Yeah, I saw it at Great."
Oh, sick.
And he was like, and then he was talking. Yeah, I wanted to buy it, but then it sold out fast, and it was like, it was kind of too expensive for me. He said, like, I was like, "Oh, I actually made this," and he's like, and you know how they have a big reaction, right? He's like, "Oh,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for saying it's so expensive. Like, I'm really a fan." But it was, like,
Yeah, you could relate to that. Let me
yeah,
say. Yeah.
obviously, and it felt so good, like to know that he didn't know about me, but he knew about the brand. So that was really a cool moment where it was like, because I always wanted to, because I started as more like people knew me first and
Right,
they
'cause
were
you're doing
buying it because
YouTube
they
and stuff
liked
too.
me, yeah. But now I always wished that it was like, oh, I wish they would see the brand first, But this was kind of like that moment where, oh, he knew about the brand but didn't really know me, but he just liked the piece.
Especially in Tokyo too.
Yeah,
Your
so that was,
YouTube channel and all that, like for him just to know the
yeah,
pieces and the brand, that's sick. That means a
yeah.
lot, honestly.
So that was really, though, I felt really like it was a really like a warm, fulfilling moment. It's just that I had some dark moments, but it was like, oh, like the end of the year is feeling good and like,
Right. It's all worth it kind of
yeah.
thing. How did Travis get the pants? I seen Travis was wearing the pants, and I feel like that was like a big thing too.
That was a big thing. So funny story was we always had the color palette brown because for me it's not, honestly speaking, brown. When I always speak with Great, they're always surprised that I always make brown and it sells. Is because originally, like normally, brown is not a popular color. Either in a jacket for a store to buy. Obviously it's black. Black is always the
Right.
base color. Navy is kind of the worst. Like grays is now okay, but brown is like kind of like, it's in Japanese like chuto hampa. It's like it's kind of like, yeah, it's not that. It's kind of like, so I would rather go for black, or I would rather go for actually a different color, but brown, like it's more like that. But then I mean I liked it, and it's a beautiful color. So we always had from the beginning, we always had like a brown pieces. And I remember when I was making the brown hourglass pants, I have a text of a DM when I was saying to one of my friends, like, "Oh man, I wish Travis could wear this." Like,
Oh, damn,
yeah,
sick.
this is kind of like his vibe, like. And that was like, hourglasses were like 2 years ago. And then we luckily we a stockist in LA in Terminal 27. Shout outs to them. They're one of the most popping stores in LA. Uh, they wanted to carry my stuff, so obviously,
Was that your first retailer in the US?
yeah, and, first retailer in the U.S. because that's why I visited LA to check. 'Cause I never visited LA, and I wanted to check, H. Lorenzo, Maxfield, like a lot of the stock is there. I wanted to see what fits my brand. I think Terminal 27 was the most that I felt like, oh, like
I could see my stuff.
I could see my brand like here, and where it's like it's no more Japanese vibe. Like the store atmosphere is clean. It's kind of like the rising star. So I wanted to like grow together, my brand, their store, kind of growing up together. But so because we time has passed when they were buying it, it's like still the good pieces, I want to put the good pieces there too, right? So even though it's been like a year since it's released, we did a few more, and then put it in the stockist there, and then it got noticed by him, and then
So you
Big
brought that
Sean and
piece. You brought that piece there, or did the buyer like want the brown ones in there
yeah,
as well?
so I made an order sheet, of my past items as well.
Right.
And they were like, they chose this, and everything. So it was in the store, and that's why like Big Sean bought it. He didn't buy the brown one, but he wore my two of my jackets.
For that.
One was in the music video, and then Travis was a bit of a surprise, to be honest. It was like I didn't know, and then
You
someone
just seen the picture surface and then
no, someone messaged me. It was
Oh,
like,
shit.
yo, I think Travis is wearing your pants. And I was like, huh? Because it was like a surprise appearance in some kind of a club. And yes, I was like, whoa, that's what's up. That was like and
That's huge.
that was huge. And it's like, and I think a lot of people thought it was huge too because the amount of messages and reactions that my phone was going off
Yeah, I believe it.
compared to uh some other influencers or celebrities who wore the brand. Like Travis was on another level. Like I was like, wow, like no wonder he is a superstar. Like so.
Damn, that was sick. Well, I don't really have any more of the questions. Was there anything else you kind of wanted to speak on or
Yeah, I mean, just like
tell the people? I feel like this is big.
I guess okay, you can ask what's next for Cmmawear, I guess.
Yeah, what's next?
Well, now we did like it's not so it's so we did a kind of a full collection now, right? But I'm still like not fully satisfied. I want it could be better, and obviously there are rooms of improvement. So we want to like keep scaling up, introduce more knitwear as well, like more clothing knitwears, and just kind of like work our way up in the industry. And hopefully within 2 years, hopefully I can do like be a part of like Paris Fashion Week and
Get you on the calendar.
yeah, and yeah, it seems like a far dream now, but I know like just once step by step that leads, like it's not impossible. So I have confidence in that. So that's how my goal is to do that. And my other goal is like with this uh the whole Korean wave is quite big, I think. The Korean culture with K-pop or just Korean brands and everything right now. A lot of things is popping in Korea, and kind of like the attention is focused there. But like I know that's not gonna last, and it's up to like my generations to not fuck that up. Like we need to build up this culture sense of where even if this kind of trend passes by, the Korean the culture remains, where it's just not a one moment kind of thing. And that's what Japan did well back in the early, before, yeah, back in the 90s, I guess, with like Rei Kawakubo, Yoji Yamamoto, Issey Miyake. I mean, Undercover and the
You're
Urahara
exactly right though. There
Undercover,
is a wave
Nigo.
going on. I didn't even think about
Yeah,
that. There's like
but now, I mean, it happened in Japan, 20, 30 years ago. And like in the street scene, obviously Nigo, like Fujiwara, like because they were there, the culture is not, that's Harajuku, right? That's Ura Harajuku and everything. And reversely thinking, they're still doing like everything, you know what I mean? But not a lot of new young designers in Japan is coming up right now.
right.
I think there was kind of a disconnection. I feel like personally, I might be wrong, but obviously there's like Double A and everywhere, and they're doing good, but not like there's not a lot of things
No,
popping.
and I like how you guys are like a young group of creative, and you guys are always
Yeah.
supporting. And like
Yeah, but
that's how I learned about post archive fashion was,
yeah.
was through you and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
because I was supporting them even from their first collections, and now they're like, collaborated with
Off-White.
Off-White. They're like mega brand right now, but now we're all like in the same age as well. Like we're just like almost the same age. One's like above, one's below. So we're just like that generation that when we feel the responsibility of like, yo, we need to do this well, where it's not just about us caring for of our money, or not just that, but like more of like we need to support each other, and like not as a, of course there's friendly competition, but not like, yo, like I'm the only one who needs to do well, and like it's not like that. It's like, yo, it's the market is big enough for everybody. We need to stick together and just make the culture like
Let's keep pushing this.
pushing it, where now where like now we can be recognized as like, yo, Korea is a fashion country too, because it's before it's only like, oh, Japan fashion, you know.
Right.
Even like, you know, when we first met, Korea wasn't really like that fashion, you know. People weren't really um
They weren't onto it like
they
that.
weren't
Not
onto it right now as compared to now. So it's like that's also one of my personal goals. While I was even the like even when I was in Japan, was like, oh, how
I
can
was gonna
they,
say you were dropping little gems on me before even
yeah,
then
right?
too.
So that's also one of my like personal like ambitions. Like, yo, like we need to set a good foundation for the people who come next to us. Like,
You guys sit down and have these conversations too
of
about
course,
this
and they
thing.
all agree, and like that's why we always like support each other, share information, like share manufacturers, share supply, like fabric suppliers, and like anything we can do to help. And we always go whenever like anyone has an event or anything. We always go and support. So
It's fire.
no.
We need to get you in the store. We need to get you in Arizona. You got to check out the store, see if it
Okay, yeah,
works out.
yeah. I'll make a trip down there and see. Like,
Yeah, we got to.
yeah, for sure.
I could already see like throw it like, next to the cold wall or something,
Yes,
ease it into the
sir.
people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Bro, I appreciate you coming through. I think
Thanks.
this is gonna be so much information and game for young people. There's no like sit down interview with you, so taking your time out today was
Thank you
much
for having me.
appreciated.
No, I was just happy to talk with a friend. You know. So
Facts. My
thank you.
boy, thank you.
Yes, sir.